Ground posts are the posts that you put into the ground to hold the structure of the hoop. Ground posts are generally 1 5/8 inches in diameter, and the hoop slides into the ground post and is connected with a bolt. Each ground post acts as an individual anchor point for its hoop. Once all the hoops are connected to the individual ground posts or the individual anchor points, the structure becomes very secure. The ground posts are driven in with a ground post driver. This is included in your kit. The ground post driver is a tool that's unique to the greenhouse industry. You can't find it in any hardware store. It's used to insert into the ground post. You pound the ground post driver. This helps you keep the lip of the ground post from bending over or being deformed. If the ground post lip is deformed, you'll have a hard time sliding in the hoop to making it evenly slide in. It'll be a rough edge on the bottom. So you need to use the ground post driver. Whether you get the Bootstrap Farmer DIY kit or you get the all-metal kit, the hoops are going to be slightly wider than the ground post. When you put one post in, the other person's going to have to push the other one in. It's a spring load mechanism. It's what keeps the hoop tight into the ground post. As you put the hoops into the ground post, don't push them all the way down. Don't worry if they're a little bit to the left or a little bit to the right. Once you complete all the hoops, you'll come back and straighten those out later. Now that the hoops are in the ground post, it's time to install the ridge pole and the cross connectors. This is a good time to get at the end of the hoop house on a ladder and eyeball down and move your hoops left to right or up and down. This is why you didn't push all the way into the ground initially. Because these hoop houses are connected in so many different points, the structural integrity of an arc is very strong. When comparing hoop house kits between other manufacturers, it's important to keep in mind the hoop house spacing. Some hoop house manufacturing allow their spacing to be 6 feet, or they use a lighter gauge. Our hoop house gauge is 16. Now we're going to go over different material options for hoops. A lot of the DIY builders are going to opt for a PVC hoop. So the downside of using PVC as your structure for your hoop is over a period of time you're going to have UV exposure, which is going to cause failure in the PVC. PVCs are susceptible to high and sustained winds. And the overall cost in the end when you rebuild the hoop next season is going to be much higher. The overall expense later on is going to be higher due to additional materials, additional time, and additional crop loss. We understand the need to follow a budget or you're just starting out, but we recommend people do a lot of research and consider a good gauge metal for your hoop house. EMT tubing ranges from 1 inch to 1.5 inch. EMT is a softer, thinner-walled gauge metal. It's great for small beds or small low tunnels, but when you do a larger structure, you need something a little bit stronger. The next option is going to be 1 3/8 inch top rail, which is typically found in the fencing department at a box store. It comes in 17 or 18 gauge. It comes in 10-foot long lengths. Actually, it's 10 foot 6 inches because the last 6 inches is going to be swagged, which is what you use to connect the pieces together. Sometimes it's actually a 3-inch swag, depending on the manufacturer that's being carried in that box store. Some wholesale fence suppliers will supply a 20 to 21 foot piece, and so you'll have to keep in mind that the 10-foot piece is really what we're suggesting. The reason you use 10 instead of 20 is it's much more difficult to bend a 20-foot piece evenly without having some kinks in it. Hoop houses can be built over existing beds or uneven terrain. All of this can be done on any farm as long as you take into account that you may need additional length of plastic, both width and length. The beauty of using a hoop house is it allows you to go over uneven areas without using a flat bottom structure. This goes back to the idea of the ground post maybe not being exactly even. Going over uneven land allows you to adjust the ground post slightly so that the top of your ground posts are all the same. Instruction guides work great if everything's equal. The climate, the crops, the terrain, the farmer's skill level, but the instructions act as a guide. Going off spec from the instructions is okay. All of this helps create the structure that's right for your location. Keep in mind that anything that alters the hoop house, cutting ground posts too far, bending hoops too much or too little, may affect the structure of the hoop house. It's okay to do modifications. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just make sure it doesn't affect the structural integrity of the hoop house. Your fourth option is the all-metal kit from Bootstrap Farmer. where the poles are already bent for you. The all-metal kit poles are a thicker gauge. They're manufactured from a recycled U.S. steel, and they're fabricated right here in Texas. In addition to the galvanizing process, these poles have a clear coating on the inside and the outside, which help protect the poles from the elements. This clear coating is included on every component of the all-metal kit, including the hip boards, the baseboards, the ridge poles, and all of the hoops, as well as all the components to the end wall. In the next video, we're going to talk about bending your own hoops.